And this is Jenn Gray, and welcome to Be Jennuine podcast. It is my heart that by the end of this episode, you believe that your story matters and that your authenticity is your superpower. Welcome to the stage, Jenn Gray. Hey friends, I am super excited for today's episode and to introduce you to a new friend of mine. This is Danita Young. She is a powerhouse entrepreneur, transformational coach, and cognitive performance expert who has built an empire rooted in personal growth and physical transformation. As the founder of Metabolism Makeover, Booty Bands, and Align, her breakthrough system for overcoming anxiety and limiting beliefs, Danita is on a mission to help others unlock their full potential from the inside out. With over $15 million in sales, 8 years in business, and a community of 350,000 plus ready to engage with every appearance she makes, Danita brings massive exposure and undeniable value to every platform she touches. She's a nationally qualified bikini competitor, certified personal trainer, and a living example of what's possible when mindset, strategy, and wellness collide. Welcome so much, Danita.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And just as always, I like to put myself in the listener's shoes. And so just kind of meeting you guys where you're at and showing you that it really is all about authenticity. Really, it's about living your story. And as you hear my story today, I want you to see yourself in your own story, because that's really what we're doing, is we're all writing our own chapters of our life. And there is so much beauty in each one of our stories. And so no comparison here. It's all about complementing. And if you're in a rock bottom stage of your life, I'm letting you know right now, you're just a big tree waiting to inspire the world and really make a big impact. Wherever you're at in your journey, whether you've been on the lowest of lows or you're now on the highest of highs, what beautiful ways we can also see ourselves in each other. And that's really why I want to be here today, is for us to all visually see ourselves in one.
I love that. And exactly what I want you to share is your journey, whatever chapter you want to start at, to give people, anyone listening, the bird's eye view into your life, where you came from, where you built what you built, what that looked like, and then where you are now, and maybe even what's ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say even just my upbringing, it was taken by the state, raised by grandma, really failing a lot of things in school, never felt like I was smart, always wanted to take the smallest, easiest path possible because I was crippled with a fear of failure, and really shrinking myself as small as possible. It wasn't until a divorce about 10 years ago that I finally was like, what the hell am I doing? What is this? Like, by shrinking myself, like, what am I benefiting? What I ultimately found out is by actually shrinking myself was allowing other people to shine over me, to star over me. And what that would do is it make me feel safe, it'd make me feel liked, and it'd make me feel loved if I was able to be that chronic people pleaser that I was. And so for all those chronic people pleasers on the call, you know what it is, and it's sucking your own life from you. That's ultimately what it is. And it's taking that authenticity away. And I recognize that midlife, I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, what is the rest of my life going to look like if I continue to keep doing this, living this version of survival mode rather than really living a thriving version of myself? And so that's where I'm from. And then it wasn't until I put myself out there and said, all right, let's be big, let's be bold, let's be courageous, let's do this thing. And so I started being an entrepreneur, and boy, when you guys are entrepreneurs, if any of you guys are out there that are entrepreneurs, holy crap, that thing is going to just hit you not upside the face, but upside the head, and also upside your whole entire body. And it's going to flip your whole world upside down like it did mine. And basically what it is like, I started off with extreme success right away. It was that I'm the owner and founder of bootybands.com. And so it was a women's fitness company. We went viral real quick. You probably have seen our ads in the last probably decade that we were just really pumping out the booty bands. And then after that, it went into a complete home gym that I customized myself. And that was a very interesting experience to be in the manufacturing world. And so really working with manufacturing, happened to open a warehouse, had to start driving a forklift, like really starting to learn these like really unknown things. And then very soon after is when everything flopped. Everything completely failed, I guess is the best way to describe it. And I have a whole definition of failure, which I'll explain here in a little bit, but losing everything, losing even my 401k, losing the house, losing the cars, just a complete rock bottom. And what my rock bottom is might be different for every person. Everybody has has her own version. But for me, I was about 8 months homeless, having to live out of my sister's house, and really just kind of wondering, like, what was the point? Like, I'm a good person. Why did it take me from everything? And I didn't know then what it was doing, but I know now what it was doing. It was basically saying, who are you? Who are you without all these cars and these business and with all of these things, right? Who are you? And that was the moment when you're stripped away of everything in life. And I heard this quote once. It says, if you feel like a pile of mush with a blanket wrapped around you, then keep holding on strong, because you're just in the chrysalis phase of the butterfly. And eventually you're going to spread your wings. And so if you feel like that right now, I just want you to know, like, sometimes that world we come into of just mind over matter and fake positivity and just work hard, you'll get there, to me was just a bunch of bullshit. It was, excuse my language, but just it was so upside down for me just to continue to keep pushing and forcing these ways and my expectation, my way. And so what I realized is not only with my hard work that I knew I had, but I recognized that I could work 80 hours a week, but if I wasn't in alignment, I'm going to go in the wrong direction. And so that was what flipped me into the catalyst of really what's going into what's called alignment. And alignment is what pulled me into a place of balance. And so not only with my work ethic, I put it with a thing of balance. And that's where I was able to find a sustainability of success, not the kind of like zigzag up and down experience anymore. Instead, it was sustainable, and it's amazing. So that's what I like to teach people now is if you're feeling like you're on the roller coaster of life and you're looking for more sustainability and you're looking for more control, I guess is a good way to describe it. Well, that's what I'm here for. And that's what I'd like to bring on today's podcast.
Of that. So a couple of things that you said. First of all, so I had my own, I call it my dumpster fire of life. And it really happened once in 2019. I went through a divorce as well and lost everything and had to rebuild. And I wish that was the beginning of my rebuild. But ultimately it took me a couple of more bad decisions to then have a huge wake up call. And so you mentioned asking yourself, like, who are you? So I call those like our core values, because I think that's exactly where we have to go. Like I just think when I'm laying on my pillow at night, the only person that I have is me. And what kind of person are we going to bed with and ourselves? How are we waking up and we look in the mirror, like, what do we see? So for you, when you had my who are you moment, what was that defining for you? Like, what did you have to get rid of? I feel like a lot of times it's like I have to shed off something like the whole chrysalis in order to become that. Would you share what that was for you? Like what you had to, maybe it was beliefs or actions or relationships that you had to get rid of in order to step into who you really wanted to be?
Oh boy, yeah, it was everything. It was perfectionism had to go. This version of I am good enough, like this constant chasing of good enough had to go. This proving energy had to go. The fears of failures, the fears of all this loss and all these types of fears that were in the subconscious had to go. Just a completely identity makeover. And that actually is what's called, some people call an ego death, or some people just call it like an old version of you dies. And that really is what it is. Like there is like you are in a caterpillar, and that eventually you go through this like mush phase where you just have a blanket around you and you don't even know who you are. Like you lose all sense of self in that stage. And what it feels like is you're jumping off a cliff. And that's why a lot of people can't do it, because they just go, you know what? I'm not capable of change. I'm just going to sit and just remain as I am, until eventually remaining as you are becomes painful. Like there's some sort of moment in the life where just staying the same becomes more painful than actually the change. And that's usually what is the catalyst for people. And so for me, it was complete shedding of all identity of who I was, what I was, just this idea that I thought I was, all of it through internal, outternal, the whole thing was gone.
I resonate deeply with that. A lot of times when we get rid of something, of course, we're having to replace it with something. So you mentioned, especially there's a lot of entrepreneurs who do listen to this podcast, and the whole like rat race, right? It's just like work hard, work hard, work hard. It's going to be hard like the first however long, and you expect it to be hard. But you mentioned like giving up that chase is part of like what you got rid of. So what did that look like for you, replacing that with new ideas or mindsets or thoughts as you replaced the old with the new?
Yeah, I mean, the way I was raised, I don't know how you guys were raised, but on my side of the planet, it was very like mind over matter. Just keep pushing through. Don't give up. Just work hard. Like, I don't know if you guys heard the same stuff I did, but I took that to heart. I was like, all right, like, let's just keep pushing through until I recognize, like, I'm burnout. What's the point? I'm suicidal. I don't want to live here anymore. Like, I got to a version of myself. I was like, I don't like what is the whole nature of this? Like, why am I pushing so hard? And a lot of the beliefs around that time was success without struggle is undeserved.
Wow.
And so I viewed that success had to be painful and
Mhm.
hard. And I had to prove to people what I've overcome and what I've endured. And I had to
Mhm.
prove to myself because I didn't feel like I was capable or smart enough or strong enough, etc. So I was in this proving energy of just
Mm.
like, I gotta just make it so freaking hard so that like I can tell people I did it until I
Right.
recognize that that is such a facade and I'm just actually making it hard.
Mm.
Legitimately, I'm making it difficult so that I feel like I'm valid of a success until I
Wow.
was suddenly flipped one day and I said, wait a minute. Can success with ease be deserved? Could this actually be faster? Could this actually be so much easier? Could I actually feel in balance? Could I actually feel this sense of present and enjoying my life where I actually smile and it's not fake and I'm not pushing and forcing my energy on people, but instead it's magnetic. What if I'm
Mm.
able to flip this whole thing around and I'm able to pull people rather than push people? And it was a huge flip. That moment for me was a big drastic flip in my life to go from one version of me to the next.
So then walk through like the specifics of that. So you've built multiple businesses in your life, multiple products, multiple offers. When you say you had to give up to give something up and to exchange it for something else, did you literally create a different product? Was the actual business that you were in out of alignment? Was it just a mindset? What did that look like?
Yeah, I would say that everything is always going to come from your thoughts. So if anybody's ever said that to you, now I'm a huge believer of like Albert Einstein. He's my absolute hero. And then if anybody's quoting Albert Einstein, you're my hero because I just absolutely love freaking Albert Einstein on every level. And so even Dr. Joe Dispenza quotes Albert Einstein, if anybody know Dr. Joe, but that neuroscientist that's really changing a lot of neuroscience and putting physics into this world of self-development. And I love it. I love that we're putting science wrapped in the spirituality world right now. And there's just such a collision that's happening. And so it's putting factual evidence of this thing called alignment and so many different words that we could use for it. But I love to just simplify it. That's really what I want to do for today is simplify that process that you're asking for is the actual steps. So the first step is everybody says is going to be the awareness phase. It really is. Like it's just a moment to go, wait a minute. Am I in a loop? Am I in a hamster wheel? Am I literally repeating the definition of insanity right now? That's like the first moment, okay? And when you're in that moment, the moment was for me was actually I was on a podcast. That's why I love doing podcasts with people because I think we really truly learn so much from each other and through our experiences. And I was interviewing a hormone expert and she jumps on and she's like, Danita, and we did this whole hour-long podcast. And at the very end, she goes, but you know what, Danita, you could do all the hormone replacement therapy you want, but if your nervous system's stuck in fight or flight, your hormones are always going to be imbalanced. And then I spoke to this digestion chick and she's like, she's been doing digestion for like 20-umpteen years or something, and your digestion is always going to be off. And I was like, are you kidding? And then the last one, it was the CEO that like sold his business. He's extremely wealthy. And he goes, yeah, I mean, you could work 80 hours a week, but if you're working 80 hours a week, but you're out of alignment, you're going to be going in the wrong direction. And so in that moment, I recognized that was my awareness phase was, wow, like if we don't have the subconscious that runs 95% of us in alignment, then technically, no matter what we're actually working hard for, pushing, fighting, draining all of our energy for is technically going to be off in the end every single time.
Yeah.
And that moment where I was like, there's got to be a different way. Okay. So that was the first step. And so what I did next is I started to track and measure. And so I'm going to actually, just for your audience, just make this really simple. I'm going to actually do a free assessment for anybody that ever wants to do it with me. All you have to do is go to callwithdanita.com and I'll explain what I'm going to do. But basically what I'm going to do is track and measure where you're currently at with your alignment. And so the first step is I'm going to go through your belief systems and you rate it on a 1 to 10 scale, not your conscious mind, your subconscious. And I'll teach you how to do that. But on a 1 to 10 scale, how would you rate yourself on I am good enough? that I'm living in my purpose, that I'm feeling in alignment, that I'm balanced, that I feel worthy and lovable, like all these type of things, right? That's one part of the assessment. The other part of the assessment is, where's your frequency? Because our thoughts are the actual, like, when you talk about like the quantum field, and if anybody kind of wants to get down into that like side of it, but the thoughts are the creation of it, but the feeling is the magnetic pulling towards you, and you need both. And so what I like to do is find out what common emotions are you feeling, and we're going to find out your frequency. And if you're living in guilt and shame and fears and apathy and anger, well, you have a very low frequency, which is going to show me that you're in a contracted state. And when you're in a contracted state, nothing good comes from a contracted state. It just doesn't. It's literally black or white. Like, it's that freaking simple. And so then after the assessment, the third step I would take you down is to literally go into perspective shift, to take a moment in your human reality that we're sitting in right now and go, well, wait a minute. Is that true? Where did you get that belief from? A lot of women will come to me and they're like, I'm not beautiful. Well, what's the definition of beauty?
Right.
How could you say you're not beautiful? Like, who's defining what technically beauty is? So then you kind of go into a perspective shift. As soon as you start going into perspective shift, what the antidote to fear and the antidote to contracting energy is going to be truth. And as soon as you hit truth, you can't deny it. And it's going to be the one thing that when they say it sets you free, oh, hell yeah, it's going to set you free. And you're going to feel unstoppable. And if somebody doesn't think that you're beautiful, you're going to say, but what's your definition of beauty?
Right.
And it gives you such a broader perspective of life, which gives you so much control of life. And when you're in a higher frequency now because of that, because it's not forced, it's not pushed, it's not fake your way to positivity, but instead of it's a deep knowing in your subconscious, and now you have full control of your life. Now you're in alignment. Now go do what you want to do. Go work hard. Go open your business. Go sell something on the street. Go be a parent. Go whatever, do whatever you want to do. But now you're in alignment, and you're going to always reach success when you're in expanded energy.
I love that so much, because when you take back the power that we can rewire our mind, I'm like you, I am such a brain nerd, and just it's fascinating to see that, man, so much of us are subconscious. We didn't have control over, right? It's how we were raised. It's the mindset in which we were brought up. But the fact that we're not stuck like that, the fact that we get to release what's not serving us anymore and rewire those thoughts to align with ultimately who we are and who we're created to be, is so powerful. And I think that's such a huge conversation for someone who, first of all, I'm fascinated by the assessment. I think that's so huge. And you've put such a practical step to something that I experienced in my rebuild, right? Like, it was just me, myself, and I sitting in a room, waking up at 5 a.m, doing workouts, taking cold showers, proving that I could do hard things to get my mindset in just this forward motion. I'm like, I can't give up. I can't stop. I've got to move forward. And then I was able to rewire and be like, this isn't fitting. And if I don't take ownership and I don't move forward, then what I'm going to do is replicate what I've already gone through, and not a fan of that. Pretty sure I survived that. We're not about to go back there, but I will if I don't fix this. And that's what I love, everything about what you just said, because that's so what I had to do. It was like the slow down to speed up. It was that if I don't get this fixed, and okay, so let's take it. So for someone listening, we're building a business. We're excited about where we're headed. We're doing the hard things. Alignment. I think alignment, is a mindset, and it's a people thing too. How important are the people in your world to you building? Or because a lot of us are solo entrepreneurs, right? We're solopreneurs doing the thing. Has that played a role in? All right, friends, we still have a lot of goodness to dive into, but really quick, I want to interrupt our convo to let you guys know about our next podcast partner. It's Alpha and Omega Automotive. If you are anywhere near Atlanta, this is another great find. As a single mom, one of my biggest needs is to make sure I have an auto repair shop I can trust. And these guys are your first and last stop for automotive repair, standing for quality, honesty, and integrity. With over 25 years in business, their family-owned business offers trusted service at 2 convenient locations. Whether you need routine maintenance or major repairs, they've built a reputation for delivering reliable professional service. Come see why customers rely on them for all of their automotive needs, because with Alpha and Omega, you are always treated like family. Your success as far as who you've surrounded yourself with?
Well, yeah, because that's going to give you your perspective. So, just to kind of break down the brain in just a couple departments. And by the way, I love, Jen, your idea of slowing down to speed up. 1000% agree. Like, I'm a bobblehead over here when you're talking because I totally agree. And once you know, like you resonate with your people as soon as they're like found the frequency they need to be in. And girl, I love it. I love that you hit that and that we continue to learn from each other because there's just always knowledge, always tools, resources in these directions that can simplify it, make it easier, make it doable. So I'm just going to briefly describe parts of the brain that makes it go why so we can go into the how. And so I'm going to kind of back up a little bit. I like to go broader first, then to go into the details because it gives people context. All right. So the first part, the parts of the brain that we're fighting against, right? They're not you. Okay. So that's what we have to do is separate. There's two versions of us. There is a survival version of us and there is a thriving version of you. I'm telling you, anything you've ever wanted in your life is so freaking possible. The money, the relationships, the trips, the whatever you want, you guys, it's only getting this thing over here. The survival brain is the only thing that's making it so you're not. And so I'm going to teach you how you beat against the survival brain. So there's a couple components of your survival brain. The first one is the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia loves familiarity. It does not like the unknowns. It does not like the future of you getting this version of you. So if there's a little bit of like a fear and a scared of like, well, that's kind of exciting, Danita, that like I can have anything I ever want in my life, but also there's a little bit of a fear, like, who would I be? And what would it look like? And that's the basal ganglia. It's the terrified of the unknowns. Okay. It only likes familiarity. Now, what is familiar is our past. So if you find somebody right away, and if they're talking about, oh, I want to get back to that version of me. Oh, I want to all those memories of the past, then that means their basal ganglia is really lit up and it's more in control than their thriving version of themselves. Okay. So the basal ganglia doesn't have much tools. So immediately right off the bat, I'm like, oh, you're living in the past. And that's going to help you. That's not going to get you anywhere in your future by continuing to have that lid on. So that's step number one. Number two is going to be the amygdala. The amygdala is the fear center of the brain, and it is basically like the bodyguard. And a lot of people, when they have the fear center come on, people ignore it. That's usually the first response. After they ignore it, then they get upset at it. It's either one of those. Okay. Now, if you have a bodyguard that you just hired to protect you in your life, but you're ignoring them, like you're not paying him or you're always angry at him, throwing tomatoes at his face, like he's not going to like you. And so there's going to be this resistance internally to you that people call this thing called stress and anxiety. As soon as you hear that word, and if you feel resistance, you're like, oh, I hate that word stress. Ugh, I hate that word anxiety. Ugh, like, right? Because we have this natural resistance to the amygdala. And when you were in resistance of the amygdala, you're not befriending that bodyguard that's just trying to protect you. That's all it's trying to do. And so once you learn that, once you learn to actually work with the amygdala, then the fear center turns off. Okay, so there's certain techniques that you can do there. Even NLP. So I'm certified NLP, and I love the subconscious brain and learning like all that type of stuff. So then the third step is going to be the RAS. You've all heard of this one, the reticular activating system. It is the filter that we come into. And so back to what Jen, you were explaining. And so now I'm coming back to your question as far as the people in our life. All right. So what happens is 92% of people are going to be more contracted in our life than they are expanded, just because that's just studies. All right. More people are stuck in a more survival and haven't learned the tools and resources. And that's why I jump on podcasts is to show people a way out, to show people how to be part of that 8% so that we can start to really change this world in the way that we want to. We can become that version of ourselves. There's no comparison. We all need each other. And the more that we need each other, the more complimenting happens, because if it was a world full of Danitas, there would not be this microphone in front of my face right now. I'll tell you right now, there would not be this computer screen right now if there was a world full of just me's. I need the world to operate how it needs to so we can continue to keep evolving to the next level of a species, in my opinion. I'll go back to the reticular activating system. So the people that we are around, if they're feeding in your brain, well, why should you do that? That's a lot of money. You can't afford that. Why try? You failed before. Why are you going to do it again? These people are going to be contracting energy. And are they going to help you become that version of you that's like steps into the unknown of life? No,
Never.
no. And these people generally are going to be your best friends, or they're going to be your parents, or they're going to be your spouses, right? And so you're surrounded around them. And so it becomes a very solo journey. And usually what I find when you go through this journey, if you don't have that person, you might need a coach to pull you out of the environment you're currently at of don't try, we don't have money for that, yeah, all that type of stuff. And so once you're able to get pulled out of it, and you can still obviously have your spouses contracted, etc. I do it all the time with people. You can have a contracting environment, but you'll need somebody to be able to pull you out of that. And that's by just giving certain tools and rewiring of the brain that you were kind of mentioning earlier, Jen, which you guys, it's not freaking hard. You guys, it's not. It's not hard. It doesn't take a lot of time. It only will be harder, take a lot of time if you keep telling it it's going to be hard and take a lot of time.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. When you realize I literally can just release this. Like, I don't want to believe this about myself. Okay, then don't. Like, literally, I was like a journal, and it was all these things of, because when we're silent long enough to listen to what constantly replays in our head, like if we get scared, we get overwhelmed. What's the immediate thing that our brain tells us? We don't like it. Boom, perfect. I'm going to replace it with this. Like, no, actually, you're telling me it's impossible. I'm showing you it's possible. Like, the fact that there's millions of podcasts does not show me that mine doesn't have a voice. It means there's a space for it. Right. And it's all those things when we give ourselves permission to not be stuck. I think that's the first step. Absolutely. And so what you're saying is so true. It's like, just do it. Stop overthinking it. Like, just stop.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's
I
so
love
huge.
it. I want you guys to feel Jen's energy right now, okay? Because feel her energy, right? Because we are all energy human beings, right? She's in an expanded state right now, and so we could have millions of podcasts that are out there, but are all of them expanded? They're not all expanded. Some people are running podcasts that are in contraction, and they're being that environment that's also proving to our reticular activating system of you can't do it. Or I tried and I failed. Generally, like you're going to find that there can be comparison in a subtle language that you have no idea. So there's certain podcasts that are out there that will be the environment, that will be the expanded energy. And so feel that from Jen. You can actually feel a big difference between a real versus a fake type of expansion. And you want to sink yourself into the real version of expansion. I swear to you, because they will lift you up. They will empower you, and they will show you the way out because they've walked it, they've lived it, and they've done it, and they know how to get out, and sustainably. It's not like quick fix. It's sustainable.
Yeah. So you mentioned, bringing it back to sustainable, that was something I wanted clarification. So I know you said your first business, you were like an overnight success, right? It went really viral, but it wasn't sustainable because that business, you had mentioned, it was a very high and very low, right? So what's the difference? Was that just like, and also then how do you go and build another business and maybe it doesn't spike to that immediate success? Like, what gets you, what did that look like? Just curious.
So I'm going to just bring down the what's called the neurological pathway loop on us all, because I love the brain, all right? You guys are going to just know I love the brain. But you guys heard it so simple so far, right? You don't feel like overwhelmed with brain information. Okay, cool. So the neurological pathway loop is what controls all of us, all right? So we are in patterns as human beings. And so many people go into this. I won't go down that trail. But anyways, if you just as simple as this, thoughts create our emotions. Emotions all dictate our actions, and actions are all controlling our outcome. That's it. Okay. And then it repeats itself. So then when we get a certain outcome, then it goes back into reinforcing the belief that we have about ourselves. That's it. Okay. That's that simple. So what happens is we get on a certain path. All right. That the thoughts, we don't even know because they're so subconsciously. Think of it as like the iceberg underneath. It is not the thoughts you have on top. I promise you. Like right now, for those people, it's like, but I feel like I'm smart. I feel like I'm beautiful. I feel like I'm good enough. No, go to the thought underneath the thought. Okay, go deeper. And once you find that, that's the subconscious. Okay, so from there is where the golden nuggets are. This is where the true version of you is. It's the version of you that's living in the lies that's like not really yours. It's like some past generational lies that are not. So what happens is when we get stuck in these patterns, it starts to hit the familiarity, which goes into the basal ganglia because it loves the familiarity. So you're living a life that feels like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel like it's me. But what happens is when we have a thought that is not me, that's not actually true, it's called a limiting belief, then we're going to naturally feel an emotion of like, I don't feel whole, or I feel frustrated, or I'm sick and tired of this, whatever it is, right? Whatever emotion it is. Now, from that emotion, I'm going to really simplify how actions are. Actions, you're either in escapism or an extreme. That's it. When you're in the contracting loop. Now, if you're in an expanded loop, you have balance. Okay, so that's the only way that your actions can exist. Escapisms, balance, or extreme. So where I was at running my business previous, as you can probably tell, I was in escapism and extreme. So that's why I was having extreme high, low, high, low, high, low with my outcome of my business. And it wasn't sustainable growth. Okay. And so it wasn't until I worked on the thoughts, cleared out the limiting beliefs that pulled me into an emotion of wholeness, connectedness, truly feeling curious and feeling creative. Okay, I feel like me again. I was able to like, got it. This is a calm, this is a cool, controlled place I can be. Then is when my action became balanced automatically. This isn't something you have to control. So then when you're in a place of balance, what does your outcome turn out to be? Very balanced. Okay, that's the sustainability. So a lot of people are splitting that neurological pathway loop down in half. And they're just focusing on their outside world. They're focusing on just their actions to create an outcome. And that's where 92% of people get stuck. And it is burning time. It is burning energy. It is wasting so much of our lives. This is where people are saying, I'm tired of being tired, because their internal world is so contracted, but yet they're trying so freaking hard. And you'll hear it in people's voice. I have to get on the routine again. I got to get back to that body again. I got to just work harder. I got to wake up earlier. I got to just do. No, that's a human doing. But technically, you're a human being, right? And so it's not until you actually step back, see that picture, and recognize that as soon as you get to that subconscious, it's going to automatically change the emotion, automatically put you in balance, and automatically change your outcome. And this is a version of me that I was like, success with ease can be deserved.
So good.
Mic drop.
Right. It is a mic drop. It's so good because that's where, man, I want people to taste that. And I feel like there's such the hustle culture. The antithesis isn't to just sit back and not do anything. It's to be aligned. It's to do something like that. You're working towards something so much bigger than just that rat race. But I'm sure you've been told you're toxically positive, right? And anytime people say that, they're like, oh, it's just, and I'm like, no. Like, there's nothing toxic about the positivity. It's when you reframe everything and know that even if it's a setback, it genuinely is building something in me that I only would have learned had I gone through that setback, had I had this. And if it is a hard day, right, it becomes a hard minute or a hard 10 minutes to get out of it and to move forward. And so experiencing emotions, but I'd love for you to talk through that, right? For someone who is getting out of that contracted state, they're trying to grasp to, one branch at a time, to pull themselves out of a thinking that just debilitates them. The pendulum doesn't swing to toxic positivity. What does that look like? What is that pull yourself out of the contracted state and reclaiming your emotions, dealing with the whole wave of feelings? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I want you to imagine a box, and this is where people get stuck into, and
hold that thought. All right, friends, have you ever moved? You guys know how crazy, insanely stressful that can be. And I have a podcast partner that absolutely is a solution to this problem. If you are moving anywhere near the Atlanta area, you guys have got to call these guys. There is a company that genuinely makes the process as stress-free as possible. Atlanta Pack and Load boasts nearly 30 years of experience providing customized packing, moving, and storage solutions. They are fully licensed, fully insured, Better Business Bureau accredited, and the trusted moving partner for realtors all over Georgia. Call today for a free quote and make sure you let them know that you heard them right here on Be Jennuine podcast. 770-779-8959 or find them online. All of their info will be in the show notes. Move the smart way. Move the pack and load way.
The black and white thinking that it's either like this or that, right? So our brains as human kind of get stuck into polarities of that, where immediately they go either work hard or I'll just give up and fail, right? Their brains kind of sit in that place of thinking. And so what's really interesting with this world of discovering and being an NLP and learning subconscious is that it's not black and white. There's actually a lot of gray, a lot of gray, like so many open doors in the gray. Like you have no even idea. As soon as I cracked open the gray, I was like, kind of scared, to be honest. I was like, this is terrifying. Like I could go to a coffee shop and literally meet a person and that could be my next business partner. Like this is scary how many opportunities there really is in the gray. Okay, so what happens is the trick word here, the secret word that like I find that I give, by the way, like a lot of people pay me a lot of money for this, okay, is the word curiosity. Because if you can't get into the positivity, the middle ground of gray is getting curious. So I'll give you an example of this. Contracted thinking is it's going to take a long time. So then the fake positivity is I'm just going to be fixed tomorrow. Okay. Now, neither one of those work because they're both contracted. Okay. Because we feel like, wait, that doesn't work. So then in the middle ground is curiosity. And it is, well, what is possible? Who could I meet? What is actually the first step? Or what's actually the resource or tool I need in order for this to happen faster? Now, there's tons of questions you can ask yourself. So there's no right or wrong there. But the key word is getting curious. And that is what pulls people out, is that middle ground, because it's expansion. As soon as I say, hey, Jen, what's the first step for you to make your first million? Your brain's like, all this type of stuff, right? But if I was like, hey, Jen, it's going to be extremely difficult to make your first million. Okay. You can make $1 million tomorrow, right? And so that's what I'm saying about fake positivity is if the subconscious doesn't believe it, it's bullshit. And so that's the same thing why the positive affirmations, we're seeing it all over the place. That if I go to the mirror and say, I'm beautiful, but deep down inside, it's like, no, you're not. Well, it's more counterproductive than it is beneficial. And so what I'm screaming to the world is stop being in the fake positivity. Stop telling people mind over matter. Stop telling people it's just going to be okay to get over it. No, it's not. Because if they actually don't get out of the box, do you know our suicidal rate right now? Do you know our divorce rate right now? Do you know the failed businesses rate right now? Okay. The world is in a box of black and white thinking. But I guarantee if I sit down with people, because I have, with my addicts or my suicidal or my relationships that are struggling or my business people that are struggling, and I sit down and I say, okay, you're in a box. And now it's time to get out of the box. You think my suicidal people stopped thinking about suicide and started thinking curious and getting outside of their head and looking for different opportunities of their life? Yeah, they do. You think my relationships that felt like this is it, I can't do this anymore, divorce is the only way out? And I was like, you're black and white thinking. Get curious. What's the other way? Well, you can't do this anymore, but you can still do the relationship, but you're over with not having the emotional connection. Got it. Well, now let's have the emotional connection, right? And I could keep going into like layers and layers of that, but it's being able, again, goes back to the perception of one's mind. When you can get into the subconscious and show them a different way, they'll take the way. They just don't know the way yet.
I could listen to you all day. Is it so fascinating what our brains are capable of and how much more, again, back to the rewiring. What do you think is the reason? I feel like we are definitely a black and white culture. Like, I don't know that I'm just trying to think of where that even starts. But, we're very polarizing. It's all that. What are your thoughts? Where does this come from, Danita? Why are we so black and white, toxically positive, or all the things? I'd love your thoughts.
I think that is so deeply ingrained of being like a slave culture that like literally would take an entirely new podcast. And I don't know, I feel like I would turn everybody's world upside down. It would make people have like, what the hell it would be so like life shifting. And I don't think it's actually not meant for today, but I would just say, there's people of power, and people of power when they don't have us in our curiosity state. That's as simply as put as that.
That is a very well put answer. You hit the nail on the head. I love that. Curiosity. It all comes down to that's the shift. Giving yourself space to question. Give yourself space to shift and move. And when I gave myself permission to think for the first time on my own, I gave myself permission to act in a way that was going to make everyone around me uncomfortable. And as a people pleaser, that wasn't even on the table. Life that I'm actually proud to live. Start with that, giving yourself permission to dream again and have permission to have curiosity. I think that is the most powerful gift you could give to somebody. I love what you're doing, and I love the change that you are bringing into others' lives. And so as we're closing, is there something new brewing, or is there something right now that's your passion project that people could jump in on? And so I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So my mission is to transform 101,000 people on the earth. That is my new mission. And through podcasts, through my course, through my program, I also have a coaching program as well. And my mission is why I picked that number is because with enough research, you'll find that we have an impact of over 80,000 people in our lifetime. And so if I can impact 101,000 and you impact 80,000 just by having a smile at the grocery store, then what's going to happen is that is going to be a ripple effect into the world. And so to me, I'm a big tree. I've come from rock bottom moments in my life. I was built for more. I was built for massive impact in this planet, and I'm going to do it. And so that's my mission. And so I do that with group coaching. I also do one-on-one coaching. I do that through a course. And like I said, I actually certify people that once they go through it, they want to be certified and actually do the process as well. And so it's already creating this little ripple effect. And so, and what's beautiful about it is it's happening so much faster than the zigzag before with my first business. And so this one is called alignwithdanita.com. And like I said, I'll give everyone a free assessment to just kind of see where you're at. Totally free. It's literally my gift to you. Literally no expectation. A free gift that just is callwithdanita.com, and I'll just go through where you're currently at and where you need to go.
That's amazing. So I'll be the first after this to go and sign up and experience that. So thank you for that generous offer for anyone that's listening today. I absolutely love that. So yeah, so as we close, I feel like you've said it in 1,000 different ways, but I have a tagline that's your authenticity is your superpower. And I believe with everything in me that when we lean into ultimately who we are, that's the greatest gift to the world. And what does that mean to you as we kind of wrap up today?
I'll wrap it up because I think the one thing that holds us back from being our authentic self, at least for me, was the feeling of failure. And so I'm just going to give my definition of what I truly believe failure is that failure only means that you lie in bed the rest of your entire life and you stare at that ceiling and you never try again. And I don't think you're capable of getting the bed sores and feeling the misery of staring at the ceiling for the rest of your entire life, which shows, are you capable of failing? Or is it actually pivoting? Because really what it is pivots. And life is never a straight line, but there's going to be tons of pivots along the way. So to your authentic self is when you get rid of the idea that there's a thing called failure. We'll get into your pivots and live your authentic self, and let's have some fun.
You're amazing. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And one of my favorite quotes is that success leaves clues. And you left a lot of clues on the table today on what ultimate success looks like. So thanks for sharing all of that. I am so excited for the impact and just to get to, like I said, cheer you on from afar and watch you impact 101,000 plus in your lifetime. So with that, thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. And as always, I love you and I believe in you. And that may sound crazy because I don't know most of you, but people hate people for absolutely no reason. And I will always choose to love you for no reason until I meet you and find the millions of reasons there are to love you. All right, you guys, see you next week. Be genuine.